Hi, everyone. We took a break from our reboot last week because of the election, but we are back now with week 5. In case you were just joining us for this reboot event, what we're doing is we are highlighting some of the top speakers from our first ever virtual summit sponsored by LAWCLERK in June. We're featuring some of the speakers in smaller, bite-sized segments that you can enjoy week by week. This week, I'm excited to welcome my friend Laurence Colletti, who will present on how to expand your practice through podcast appearances. Laurence is an attorney and also serves as executive producer at the Legal Talk Network, so he knows a thing or two about podcasts. He's definitely a thought leader in the legal industry when it comes to all aspects of web-based media. I hope you can join me and Laurence later this week on Facebook Live to recap his session and answer any of your questions. Now, without further ado, here's Laurence Colletti.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laurence Colletti. I'm the executive producer for Legal Talk Network. And the title of my presentation is called How to Get Booked as a Podcast Guest. And please forgive my eyes darting all over the place. I've got a few screens up here with my notes, so just bear with me. But anyway, I'm working remote just like many people around the country here, hence the background here in my remote studio digs. But, as attorneys, even though we don't have access to all of the normal resources that we're accustomed to, it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be promoting our practices or reaching out to our communities and see what type of needs potential clients might be having right now. So anyway, podcasting, wonderful opportunity to reach out to folks right now where they are. There's a captive audience online consuming products and services, solving problems through their online platforms with whether it's their computer or an online app. People are doing research to solve issues in their lives online, and that's where they are. So podcast offers a great opportunity to reach them right there. And the wonderful thing about podcast is once it publishes, you can post that episode on an embedded player of that episode on your website or blog, feature it in your social media. And so people out there looking to solve a problem, they get to hear you in addition to read your bio and see your picture and maybe some of the awards that your law firm has won over the years. So they'll get that personal connection with you, which I think bodes really well for people that are going through some uncertain times. So how to get booked on a podcast? There's a lot of different ways to do this, obviously just like many elements of life. And so I always like to recommend to people that are interested in making podcast appearances to size up a show that relates to and this is a self-assessment. What is your self-assessment on your reputation as far as being well known as an expert in your community? Obviously attorneys are fantastic experts, but how many other people in your community know that? And honestly, answering that question, just being realistic about it, helps with the next steps to build that reputation. And so all things being equal, the larger audience a podcast show might have, the more famously an expert the guest expert needs to be. So the good news is lawyers are deep dive experts on the practice areas that they engage in. And so that expertise built in, it's baked into the cake. That just leaves the notoriety part, establishing that reputation. And the good news about that is that we live in times where that is easier than ever to establish through blogging, through media appearances, writing and authorship articles, being published in your bar journal. And so anyway, great times for that. And so getting back to the matter at hand, getting on a podcast, what are producers and hosts looking for? Well, they're looking for 3 kind of major areas. The citable and visible expertise is one of them. And we'll cover all of these in more detail in just a minute here. The next is social media and online presence, savvy on those areas. And then being reachable and easy to work with. That's something that hosts and producers are looking for as well. So we'll take those one at a time. So the first one, citable and visible expertise. What is that? So that's that wow factor that producers and hosts are trying to put on their show to attract audience members to tune in. And so real important, they want to connect the dots. Why is the audience listening to me? We're going to get them a well-known expert that they've either heard of or one that they can find readily online. And don't think for a minute while you're being played on a podcast out there somewhere that there isn't a listener out there looking you up. They may have a similar problem or maybe want to hire you or maybe just want to know a little bit more about you. Very commonplace for people to be listening to an episode on their AirPods and then searching you out on that same device. And so, what are producers and hosts looking for in terms of this wow factor, citable and visible expertise? blogs. If you have a blog out there, that bodes very well, especially for niche issues. Keep up on those blogs regularly, updating them. Stay on a schedule. They're looking for authorship in notable publications like bar journals, media outlets like Above the Law, National Law Journal, or some of the other big, widely known legal media platforms out there. Don't discount the value of being a presenter at conferences or local conferences or local events with your bar association, state or local or specialty bar. Those get seen online and help establish your reputation. Also help you with your public speaking. So definitely be doing that. Working for a well-known law firm, working for a think tank, government agency, or advocacy group, something that's got a big reputation, that also bodes well for being booked as a guest because that reputation precedes the workers at that particular entity. And then, of course, for those new at the game, past media appearances help beget new media appearances. And over time, this does get easier. The hardest steps are the first one. Just like most things in our profession, when we first start something, it's not as easy as it will become later. So advice for people out there that are new to this game that want to get more media appearances and, maybe haven't had them so far. We recommend, look, lawyers are great writers. They're expert deep dive in their particular practice area. Write about it. It's something that's totally on your time, totally under your control. Maintain that regular blog, display your expertise at every chance you can. Present at your state, local, specialty bars, any little presentation you can. Get in front of people, in front of a microphone. And the other thing is engage in social media. And we're going to get into that a little bit more here in a second, but real important to be on there. That helps producers and hosts promote the show. And so good jumping off point into the next section, the social media and online presence and being savvy in those areas. The reason that's so important is that when producers and hosts promote a show, they reach out on social media platforms and they tag their guests and hope that their guests will share that episode. And the idea is to get in front of a new and increased audience. And so to the degree you have a large following and engaged following, that makes you much more attractive to producers and hosts. And so all things being equal, two equally qualified guests, the one that has 100,000 followers versus 0 followers, this one's going to get the nod for the interview opportunity. So I encourage everybody, especially in these times, to be reaching out on your social media platforms, be part of the conversation. If you haven't been on in a while, dust them off. If you don't have social media platforms like Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn, get one, start getting out there. One side benefit of that, besides just promoting your practice and getting these media opportunities, there's a lot of knowledge out there. People are struggling with a lot of things and they're sharing it on social media. So it'll get you in tune with what's going on in your local community. So third part, this is my favorite section from of these three from the producer's point of view. Be reachable, easily reachable, and easy to work with. And so can't emphasize this enough. One of the dirty secrets about the podcasting industry is that producers and hosts are always hard pressed to get that next episode on. We might be under some sponsorship obligations, but we're always in a hurry. There never seems to be enough time. So the person that calls us back first, generally speaking, gets the interview. And so for people new to this game or for people that want to up their game, I always recommend that they add a section to their website and call it Press and Media Contacts. In fact, call the link there, put it in your main menu, Press and Media Contacts. And what should be on that separate web page on your website is all the topics and issues that you're comfortable talking about, and also ways to communicate with you, email and a phone number. But you want to feature on there some of your past experiences, some of your authorship opportunities, like if you write for a publishing outfit, if you write for your local paper, if you have your own blog, if you wrote a book, even better. That's awesome. Some of your past media appearances, like on other podcasts, maybe you made it on the news one night, but all of that should be shared and featured on that particular part of your website. But most importantly, easy ways to contact you. I would always leave an email, better yet, a phone number. And the idea behind these points of contact is this is an email handle that you will check immediately. This is a phone number you'll respond to immediately. Maybe even do a call forward to your cell phone and your phone system in the office. That way, when somebody calls this number, it's a media appearance. Answer it right away. Even if you're getting ready to jump into a consultation, I would just pick up that phone and say, hey, listen, I got to jump into a consultation just now with a new client, but can I call you back 30, 40 minutes? And then call them back. And then to the degree you do that, respect the producer's time, you're going to get that nod for that media appearances. And if you want some examples of what those media pages or those media contact pages look like, turn to your favorite think tank or advocacy group. They usually have really good examples of how to reach out and handle media requests and things like that. So always a good place to check in and see what works for you, your website, and your area of law. So now to my favorite part of the presentation, this last slide, good pitch versus bad pitch. So Legal Talk Network, we've been on the air since 2005. We've had thousands upon thousands of episode pitches, some really good and others maybe not so good, but don't worry, we love you all. But in the world of production, producers and hosts are incredibly busy trying to answer emails. They get flooded and inundated. There's just simply no logistical way to handle them all. And so the best way to get featured on a podcast when you're reaching out is to custom tailor your email. So in addition to some of the other things that we were talking about, writing and, media appearances and being on podcasts and just kind of upping your social media game. This is something you can proactively do. So if the media calls aren't coming in on your media contact page, don't wait for them to come in. Start reaching out. And that's what this pitch section is all about. So let's go over what a good pitch is. Good email pitch that stands out, short and concise, a paragraph or two, no more. I would even recommend some formatting on that, like some bullets. Make it easy for people to read. These are tired eyes under a deadline that are trying to get to the most relevant information. They're trying to reply, but it's just logistically impossible to get to every single email. As much as we try, we just can't respond to everyone. I'm not being rude. Just from the producer's side, we just can't get to them all. You need to clearly articulate your expertise and why it's relevant to the show. Display that you've listened to the show and understand the program. I would recommend that. Listen to any show that you're pitching. Listen to their episodes, listen to topics, learn a little bit about their audience, follow them in social media, learn about that production and pitch towards that. In that pitch, share your social media handles. I would share your media appearances, past appearances, display your authorship. Make sure it's coming from an official email. Last thing you want to do is send it from your college email with all the weird handle stuff on it, something you'd send to your friends. Have it come from your website for your law firm. And that will typically, attract a callback. And then also share your phone number for rapid callbacks in there. And then just a couple of bad pitch things. This is what bad pitches have in them. The email's either way too long, telling the story, someone's life story of their career. And although, these are interesting factoids about a person, it's not relevant to the episodes. I would just get straight to the point. Don't overshare. And also don't undershare. You got to provide enough information. Don't just say, hey, I practice in this area of law. I know a lot of stuff. You should put me on a show. You need to connect the dots as to why your expertise is valuable. Come up with that episode idea. Share one. It's like, hey, you haven't covered this topic during your show. I would recommend this. A lot of my clients are interested in this area, and I think you should do an episode on it. That's a much better pitch. And then the other thing, and this usually comes from bigger firms, don't merely share a press release. Press releases are great. They give a lot of information, but you should definitely queue it up with a relevant email and why that lands with a particular show. And so if you want it, I think I highly recommend attaching a press release because they've got a lot of those facts that you can dig out. It gives the host and the producer a place to start asking questions. But if you're going to share a press release, do it in an attachment. So that's pretty much it for the basics here. Hopefully this was useful information. If you have some questions, I'm available on Twitter or by email. So my Twitter handle is at Laurence ESQ. That's Laurence spelled with the U, ESQ for Esquire. And my email handle is Colletti at Legal Talk Network. That's LCOLLETTI at LegalTalkNetwork.com. Hopefully you found this helpful. Have a wonderful rest of your day.